Let's explore autistic history and the Autism Wars. This is part 74 of a series. Alright, so in the last video I left off with an introduction to the history of applied behavior analysis, and I was sharing parts of it from the Wikipedia entry, so you can find the text of what I'm sharing on there, and then I'm going to jump into other resources after this video to discuss it a bit more. I'm definitely going to share the autistic community civil rights movement that includes a fight against ABA. Alright, earlier I shared that the beginnings of ABA go all the way back, let's see, to 1959. Okay, so we're going to jump forward a bit to a group of researchers at the University of Washington, including Donald Baer, B-A-E-R, Sidney W. Bijou, Bill Hopkins, J. Bernbauer, Todd Risley, and Montrose Wolfe applied the principles of behavior analysis to manage the behavior of children and adolescents in juvenile detention centers and organize employees who required proper structure and management in business. In 1968, Baer, Bijou, Risley, Bernbauer, Wolfe, and James Sherman joined the Department of Human Development and Family Life at the University of Kansas, where they founded the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis. Notable graduate students from the University of Washington include Robert Waller, James Sherman, and Ivar Lovaas. Lovaas established the the UCLA Young Autism Project while teaching at the University of California, Los Angeles. In 1965, Lovaas published a series of articles that described a pioneering investigation of the antecedents and consequences that maintained a problem behavior, and relied on the methods of errorless learning, which was initially used by Charles Foerster to teach nonverbal children to speak. Lovaas also described how to use social secondary reinforcers teach children to imitate, and what interventions, including electric shocks, may be used to reduce aggression and life-threatening self-injury. In 1987, Lovaas published the study Behavioral Treatment and Normal Educational and Intellectual Functioning in Young Autistic Children. The experimental group in this study received an average of 40 hours per week in a one-to-one teaching setting at a table using errorless discrete trial training, or DTT. The treatment is done at home with parents involved, and the curriculum is highly individualized with a heavy emphasis on teaching eye contact, fine and gross motor imitation, and language. The use of aversives and reinforcement were used to motivate learning and reduce non-desired behaviors. Early development of the therapy in the 1960s involved the use of shocks and withholding food. And if you think the days of electric shocks are behind them, I am so sorry. That is absolutely wrong. But we'll get into that later. By the time children were enrolled in this study, such aversives were abandoned, and they allowed no or a slap to the thigh were used only as a last resort to reduce aggressive and self-stimulatory behaviors. The outcome of this study indicated 47% of the experimental group went on to lose their autism diagnosis and were described as indistinguishable from their typical adolescent peers. This included passing education without assistance and making and maintaining friends. These gains were maintained as reported in the 1993 study, that is the year my oldest was born, long-term outcome for children with autism who received early intensive behavioral treatment. EIBI. So, Lovaas' work went on to be recognized by the U.S. Surgeon General in 1999. 1999. Weren't we just reading about 1999? And the push, and the marketing push, and the push for ABA, and the push to find, that gene. So, 1999 is an important year. There's a lot of things going on in the autism community activism, different type of activism than the autistic community, to be clear. So the Lovaas method went on to become known as Early Intensive Behavioral Intervention, or EIBI. And we see this name and acronym all over the place now in terms of therapy for autistic children. The earlier the intervention, the better. That's a quote. But yeah. Not a quote from autistics, but from the autism community and the people who were invested in this autism market. Okay, so over the years, behavior analysis gradually superseded behavior modification. That is, from simply trying to alter problematic behavior, behavior analysts sought to understand the function of that behavior, what reinforcement histories, i.e. attention seeking, escape, sensory stimulation, etc., promote and maintain it, and how it can be replaced by successful behavior. This analysis is based on careful initial assessment of a behavior's function and the testing of methods that produces changes in behavior. While ABA seems to be intrinsically linked to autism intervention, it is also used in a broad range of other situations. Recent notable areas of research in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis include autism, classroom instruction with typically developing students, pediatric feeding therapy, and substance use disorders. Other applications of ABA include applied animal behavior, consumer behavior analysis, forensic behavior analysis, behavioral medicine, behavioral neuroscience, clinical behavior analysis, organizational behavior management, school-wide positive behavior support and contact desensitization, desensitization for phobias. Alright, so the history of ABA is being glossed over here a bit. It's deeply problematic, and I think that study, it talks about being replicated from Ivar Lovaas. That's actually not true, because it was not ethical and they couldn't repeat it. But I will get forward to that. Maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly or a different version of it, but that will be in the next couple of videos when I share that particular history more. But I'm going to jump forward in this Wikipedia entry that I'm reading from right now on applied behavior analysis 2 that use as therapy for autism section, but you can read it in full here and find all the text here if you so desire. But thank you for joining me and exploring a bit more autistic history, and there is so much happening.